As a priest, you do a lot of funerals, more funerals than you're here to do. And every so often, you'll do a funeral and you remember the trappings of the funeral, what led up to the funeral itself, the funeral story. And I remember one funeral I did some years ago, and it's seared in my memory. There was this young man, 23 years of age. He went to visit his father, needed to talk to his dad. When he got to the dad's house, he went into the kitchen, and the dad was in the kitchen, and he was on his cell phone. The son looked at his dad, and he said to his dad, whispering to his dad, "Dad, I need to speak with you." And the father, with cell phone in hand, talking to the person he was talking with on his cell phone, he looked at his son, and he gave him the 1 minute sign. 1 minute, 1 minute. And anytime someone asks you to wait for 1 minute, that's not really that difficult thing to do. You just simply wait for a minute. But how often in life a minute turns to 2 minutes and 3 minutes and 5 minutes? The son is patiently at first waiting for his father to finish his phone conversation. So at first the son just waits that 1 minute. But that 1 minute turned out to be about 10 minutes. And then the son looked at his father again and he said, Dad, I need to speak with you. And the dad this time, with somewhat of an angry look in his face, said, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. Give me a minute. So the son is just standing there and he's waiting, and he's waiting not only a minute, but 5 minutes, now about another 10 minutes. And then the son, losing his patience, he lifts up his arm and he starts tapping on his watch to his father. I need to speak with you, I need to speak with you, he's saying to his dad, and his dad does the same thing. 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. Give me a minute. So the son is waiting there, and according to the father, he's pacing the kitchen floor. Finally, after looking at his dad several more times, the dad going just like that. Finally, the son got upset and he left. He got in his car and drove off. About a half a mile down the road, there's a sharp bend in the road, a bend that this son knew well because he lived in a house growing up. But he was going at a high rate of speed and failed to negotiate that curve and lost control of the car, went off the road and hit a tree and was killed. And at that funeral, all that father would be saying to me and saying to others, what did my son want to say? Why did I make him wait 1 minute, then another minute? Why didn't I tell the person I was speaking with? Because it really wasn't that important. Look, I got to call you back. My son needs to speak with me. But I made my son wait and wait and wait and wait. You see, the infraction the father committed unintentionally but intentionally has caused him great anguish from that moment forward, probably even till now. I haven't spoken to him lately. But in today's gospel reading, Martha commits a similar infraction. You see, many people in church may be sitting there right now, right today, are committing the same infraction Martha committed. Maybe a similar infraction of this father. Now, the gospel reading tonight comes out of the 10th chapter of Luke, verses 38 to 42. So let's take a look at verse 38, 39, and the first half of verse 40, which is 48. So it says, Jesus entered a village where a woman whose name was Martha welcomed him. She had a sister named Mary who sat beside the Lord at his feet listening to him speak. Martha, burdened with much serving, came to him and said, now, Mary, this is not Mary, the mother of Jesus. This is a different Mary. This Mary had a sister named Martha, one of the characters of today's gospel reading. Martha and Mary had a brother named Lazarus. Now, Mary didn't know how long Jesus came to visit. Is he going to be there a minute, an hour, a day, a week? She had no idea how long Jesus came to visit. All she knew is he is here now. I'm going to put everything down and listen to him speak. But Martha, it said, was burdened with much serving. Now that is kind of suspicious. You see, it turns out to be back in biblical days, there were only two things that you had in your home that you can serve any visitor. Wine and bread. Everyone had wine and bread. Those are the only two things that you could preserve. So if you wanted to give someone some nice hospitality, you got the wine, you got the goblet, you got the bread. You poured the wine in the goblet and the bread, everyone just tore off chunks of bread as you passed it around those at table. So to really be hospitable, it would have only taken seconds. But it makes it sound like she's burdened with much serving. There wasn't much serving that needed to be done. So something else is going on here. Now we have to take a look at verse 40b and 41 and 42 to find out what the true story is. Now it says, tell her to help me. That's Martha speaking to Jesus, and she's upset. My sister Mary is sitting there. She's not helping me. Tell her to help me, Jesus. And Jesus said this in reply, Martha, Martha, you're anxious and worried about many things. There's need of only one thing. Mary has chosen the better part of it and will not be taken from her. What made Martha so anxious and so worried? You see, Martha had a to-do list. You might know people who have to-do lists. They get up in the morning or the night before and they make this to-do list, all the things I got to do tomorrow. And so they get up and they start to chew up their to-do list. And God forbid the person who interrupts them as they're trying to get all these things done. I don't have time for it right now. I don't have time for you right now. I'm trying to get my to-do list done. I got to do this and this and that and this and that and that. And that's what happened to Martha. She had a to-do list. So she got burdened with much serving because what was she doing? When Jesus shows up unannounced, a guest, Mary decided to drop everything, listen to what Jesus had to say. Martha, no. Martha's saying, Jesus, your timing is bad. I'm halfway through my list. I'm doing laundry. I got to fold the clothes. I got to vacuum the house. I got to wash the windows. I got all these things to do. Then once I get done with all these things, then I'll be able to sit back and listen to what you have to say. What she's basically saying to Jesus is, Jesus, just sit there and wait till I get done. And when I get done, then we'll have a conversation. You see, she hated getting interrupted. What was Martha's great infraction? What happened to this father when he kept saying to his son, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, when he never actually meant 1 minute? When 1 minute turned to 10 and 10 turned to 20 and 20 turned even more. This is what happened to Martha. She got that. Martha got carried away. How easy it is in life to get carried away. We make so many mistakes in dealing with family and friends when we get carried away. That father kept saying to his son in anger, give me a minute. But he got carried away. The son was willing to wait a minute. A minute's not that long. If I come to your house unannounced and you ask me to wait a minute, that's not asking for much from me. But the minute turned to a long time because the father got carried away. Martha got carried away. Instead of just listening to what Jesus had to say. She had all that to-do list. I got to get all these things done. And Jesus is interrupting me. I know what I'm going to do. I'll get my stuff done first, and then I'll say to Jesus, now I can listen to what you have to say. Jesus might have said, guess what? I'm leaving now. I'm not hanging around. What makes an alcoholic? You cannot become an alcoholic when you have a drink once every so often. That does not make you an alcoholic. You can't become an alcoholic if you have a drink once a month, once a year. But when a person has a drink not once in a while, but all the while, all the time, they get carried away, then what happens? They become an alcoholic. They got carried away. What happens in a relationship between a husband and wife when sometimes, this isn't true for everyone, but when you get estranged from one another, when you're no longer spending time with each other. Relationships take time to nurture, to blossom, to bloom, to spend time with each other. When the husband or the wife says, I'm going to spend this evening, I'm going out with the fellas, I'm going out with the gals. There's nothing wrong with that. Everyone needs some me time. And so there's nothing wrong with going out with the guys or the gals once every 2 or 3 weeks. But trouble develops when one night a week or one night every other week becomes every night. Every night you're going out with the fellas. Every night you're going out with the gals. Every night you got carried away. And the relationship corrodes, it gets contaminated. When someone comes to your house unannounced and they want to spend time with you, you're going to be merry and say, look, Great, sit down. And bring out the iced tea or whatever you might have and just spend time with them. Or will you be the Martha and say you came unannounced? I got all these things to do. I have my to-do list. A lot of husbands and wives have arguments because the husband might interrupt the wife because she's trying to get her to-do list done. You get carried away. Is anyone getting carried away tonight? You don't have to raise your hand, but have you got carried away lately? Unintentionally, intentionally got carried away. That father, if he could have that time back, he would look at his son when the son first walked into the kitchen and said, Dad, I need to speak with you. And the dad would have said 1 minute, and 1 minute later, he'd be talking to his son, not this person on the phone, but he got carried away. Your prayer tonight is this. And you might be getting carried away and don't even know it. You might put a strain in your relationship with someone else, a son or daughter, husband or wife, or friend, and you don't even know it because you're getting carried away. Heavenly Father, give anyone here the ability to see when they're getting carried away. When they're doing what they shouldn't be doing because they're getting carried away. If one thing is corrosive in life, corrosive in relationships, corrosive in marriage, corrosive among siblings, it's when you get carried away. That leads to alcoholism. That leads to drug addiction. When you start off small, then you go big, and then it's all the time. You get carried away. Heavenly Father, if anyone here tonight is getting carried away, give them the ability to realize what they're doing, to wake up, so they can realize, I have to stop getting carried away. Because when you get carried away, no good has ever come out of getting carried away.